Peace and love, fam. I hope you all are doing well. Today I have a very interesting one for you. This is definitely one that kind of caught me off guard when I got the insight. But what if I told you that being called a baboon isn't always an insult, In Namibia here, baboons are considered pests, feared, sometimes hated, destructive. They can be very dangerous, Not animals to play with really. But, the word baboon, when used towards people, is almost always an insult. And maybe we've been seeing them all wrong, as I've learned. So again, guys, just stick with me till the end. I have some really good insight to bring out, but you have to watch all the way to the end. And as usual, if you like the content, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us to keep going. All right, so baboons, like I said before, are dangerous. They can be troublesome, and their name is usually used to mock people, right? Usually people of African descent, And the same thing applies with other names like monkeys or apes or whatever other primates people use to mock people with. My family and I currently live in Namibia, so the insights I received were specific to baboons. So as a person of African descent, it's always something that felt offensive and degrading when directed at you or anyone else that looks like you, to be honest with you. So imagine my shock when I saw people wearing the nickname Baboon with pride. Yeah, it caught me off guard. So one of my first encounters was with a friend of mine, a brother of mine. He's a Tanzanian guy, and he works in a place called Courier Hub in Katatura, right? So I was getting some work done on my car, and me and this guy, Salu, started talking. And as we're there talking, somebody walks past and they greeted him and they called him Baboon. So I was immediately offended. This was another African person, another, so-called black person that called him Baboon. So I was offended for him, and he smiled and just, said hi. And I'm like, why would you answer to that name? Don't answer to that name. That's offensive, blah, blah, blah. And he just smiled and said, no, it's just what they call me. He didn't see it as a big deal or anything like that. So later on, kind of a similar thing happened with my brother TK, a good friend of mine, business partner and everything. So TK and his crew are from Zimbabwe. My brother's from another mother, long lost cousins. TK and I were there with two mechanics, Benji and Terry, and the same thing, somebody passed and they greeted TK as Baboon. So again, I'm like protesting and I'm offended, and I'm like, yo, don't respond to that name. That's not a good name. It's something that's used as a racist slur towards Africans and all these stuff. And, he just smiled again, and I was way more offended than he was. And, that's when I realized maybe I didn't understand baboons at all. Maybe I didn't understand what TK and Salu understood at all. So that's kind of when TK started explaining to me why he doesn't feel offended when people call him baboons. It's like a term of endearment that I can't speak for every African or every person from Zimbabwe or every person from Tanzania, but I know that TK and his circle, they call each other baboon in a sense as a term of endearment. And that's when he explained to me that baboons are clever, they're resourceful, they're hustlers who know how to survive anywhere. They're brave, they're strong, and above all, they stick together. They're very family oriented. And that's when it hit me. To him, baboon wasn't an insult, it was respect. And I started thinking about all the times I see the baboons on the street side when we're driving here in Namibia. You see the females with the babies either underneath hanging on or on their backs. You see the males, the big males, just sitting there proud, watching, looking over his crew. I don't know what you call them, a troop. Looking over his troop if anything is going on. I've seen them kind of in action before, where sometimes we go to walk on our plot and you'll see the lookout make a signal, and then all the baboons just kind of move at once. So they're a very tight-knit group. They're very family-oriented, and TK was explaining to me that the baboons are very smart. So what they'll do is while you're there, so one baboon will go to steal the food or whatever, wherever they can get the food, and while you're paying attention to that one baboon, two others are going around to steal the food from the other side, and they're not gonna just sit there and take all the food and eat it themselves. They're gonna tuck it under their arms and do all this stuff, and they're gonna bring it back to the troop. Now, of course, all this is anecdotal, right? National Geographic might say something else, but anyway, you know, and I think about my dogs, for example, my 2 dogs. If I go outside in the evening and I put the dog food out, the 2 bowls, and you know, one dog is not there and the other dog is there, that one dog will eat all the food from both bowls. He doesn't care, or she doesn't care. They're just gonna eat all the food. They're not gonna leave any for the other dog. They don't care. They're just gonna eat all the food. With baboons, it's different, apparently. So again, this part is mainly anecdotal, as was explained to me by my brother. You know, when I researched it online, it doesn't seem like it's the standard behavior, but they did say that it does happen at times. So I'm gonna hold on to that because I think it's a really nice sentiment. After this conversation with TK, you know, so we started joking around and they called me the big baboon, you know, and you have the other baboons and whatnot. So yeah, so I've also kind of embraced it. But you know, the reason why they call me big baboon is because I'm much older than these guys. I'm 45 and most of them are in their low 30s. So that's why. My other brother, my Oshiwamba brother Matthew, who I work with, you guys know Matthew, he added some more insight, and his story actually blew me away. One morning we were driving to town and we started talking about baboons for whatever reason. I think we may have seen some, and he was telling me how strong and how dangerous they are. I didn't realize how strong and how dangerous they were. He said you take one baboon can tear apart the biggest, baddest dog you can think about. Because remember, the baboons have the sharp teeth, the long fangs, and they have fingers, right? So they can use the fingers and the claws and the teeth and everything to rip that dog apart. So they're very, very strong, dangerous creatures. Again, this is straight up anecdotal. You know, I don't know if anybody has done this test. I hope not. It would be a very horrible test. It's kind of like the 100 men versus one gorilla thing, you know. It's just all anecdotal, but this is something obviously that Matthew had seen and experienced or heard about. So it just gave me a new profound respect for the strength and the aggressiveness and how dangerous the baboons are. And of course, everything is relative and perspective, right? We're probably talking about a big male baboon versus like a normal dog, like maybe like I don't know. It doesn't matter. The point is that based on his experience, his beliefs, his knowledge, he believed that one baboon can essentially destroy a dog. So I never knew that. I never thought about that, but that was eye-opening for me. In fact, there is somebody here who was a professional guide at many lodges here in Namibia, and they told me that the baboons are so strong that I don't know if this is true or not, but the baboons can actually take their fingers to screw off the nuts of a vehicle's tire. So those nuts that you use with the lug nut to lock it, they can use their fingers to screw those out. That's so strong they are. So again, one baboon can take down the biggest, baddest dog you can think of. And this is the one that blew my mind. Again, I have to throw this caveat in. This is speculative, anecdotal. You know, according to my brother, he believes that 2 or 3 baboons could take down a lion. You know, again, we're talking about maybe it's 3 big male baboons versus like a smaller lion or something like that. But that was the level of respect that he had for the power and the aggression, the strength of the baboons. You know, when I researched it online, most of the things suggested that it wasn't possible and you would need like at least a dozen or more baboons. But, you know, long story short, it wasn't something I had contemplated in the past, the possibility of baboons taking down a lion. But yeah, if you have a fairly big enough group, I don't know, maybe when I asked TK and those guys the same thing, they said about 5 baboons they think could take down a lion. Matthew says 2 or 3. Online says a couple dozen. So who do I believe, right? Do I believe what online says, or do I believe what the people who live on this land and have seen and experienced, you know, what these animals can do? You know, I'd leave it up to you, but it's still amazing the power of these animals when they come together and they fight and defend themselves as a unit, what they can achieve. They can even take down, possibly, hypothetically, speculatively, the apex predator, the lion. So I thought that was amazing and mind-blowing, profound. So their true power isn't in being alone. Their true power is in the troop, is in being together. I remember watching this video of a leopard who attacked a troop of baboons. And yo, within seconds, I'm talking like baboons were all over that leopard, and the leopard ended up running off. But herein is a big lesson, right? The baboons were giving chase to the leopard, and as they were giving chase to the leopard, a few of them continued to chase and chase and chase, and then one baboon continued to chase longer than he should have when the other baboons had stopped. And so the leopard was able to grab that baboon and capture it. And apparently this is a strategy of the leopards to go in and try to isolate one baboon. And so when that one baboon was isolated, the leopard was able to catch that baboon. So of course the lesson in that is their unity makes them unstoppable, makes them a force to be reckoned with. And when one strays away from the group, there's usually an issue. I have also heard that when you see like individual baboons by themselves with no troop, especially male baboons, there's usually an issue or just something going on. It's not the norm. It's out of the ordinary. So usually they stick together. They're a tight unit, tight family unit, a tight group, a tight troop. So when you look at, various animals, for example, the bull represents raw strength, right? The lion represents leadership and royalty. The baboon, not so much. Usually an insult and not the most attractive animal, right? Depending on how you look at it. But in truth, the baboon is a hustler, a fighter, a survivor, and a unit. A family that wins by sticking together. And one of the things that struck me while making this video is the fact that a lot of sports teams bear the name of various animals, right? You have the bulls, the lions, tigers, marlins, dolphins, sharks, eagles, falcons, so all kind of names, but no primates. I don't know of any, the apes, the baboons, the monkeys, or anything like that. And primates are some of the most extremely intelligent mammals there are. And as we have covered, they are very strong, they're fast, they're agile, and their number one trait is that they're a unit. They're a strong unit, and what could better represent a sports team than a troop of baboons, I don't know, maybe it's midlife crisis or maybe it's growth and a deeper connection to the land and the earth and creation, where this is just something I'm pondering, as to why these animals have such a negative rep in certain ways, and why it is that most people would be okay in bearing the emblem of a lion, a bull, or a tiger, but if you had to bear the emblem of a baboon or a monkey, it would be a negative thing when these are such amazing creatures. So what is it that gives them that stigma? I don't understand it. And it can't just be a superficial thing, right? It can't just be about the looks. I don't think so. And why is it that it is used as a derogatory term or a nickname? I can imagine people walking around calling people, hey, you lion, or something like that in a negative way, right? It wouldn't make any sense, but to call somebody a monkey or a baboon, it seems more degrading. Why? I don't understand. These are, when you really look at it, these are beautiful, wonderful creatures of creation, So anyway, so who knows, maybe one day I'll get enough money and I'll start my own sports team, and they'll be called the Baboons. And anybody that wants to be a part of a strong team, a family, come and join the Baboons, all right? So maybe the real strength isn't in standing alone. Maybe the real strength is in standing as one. So, of course, like most people, I rejected that name. If somebody called me a baboon, I would want to probably fight or get upset or retaliate in some way. But through Salu, through TK, through Benji, through Terry, through Matthew, I've learned to see it differently. Baboons aren't just troublemakers. They are a reminder that unity turns weakness into strength. Now, I kind of wear it as a compliment. So sometimes when I go see TK and the guys, I'm like, what's up, my baboons? And the big baboon is here, blah, 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 blah. your big brother baboon is here. You know, I'm the oldest one out of all those guys. Those guys are very young. Yeah, I'm the big baboon. So, yes, baboons can be troublesome, 100%. Listen, here on our plot, I don't want to see them anywhere near my plot. If I see them, I'm gonna have to do whatever I have to do to get them away, because like I said, they can be very dangerous, they can be very destructive, they can be very troublesome. But seeing them now driving on the road and seeing them on the side of the road, I have a different appreciation for them, right? Because I now know that they're very strong, they're resilient, they're fearless together. So, I don't know, next time somebody calls you a baboon, maybe don't take it as a shame. Maybe take it as a sign of respect. Because sometimes the names that we think tear us down, the names that people target us with or direct at us to tear us down, are the same ones that remind us how strong we are when we stand together. As it is written in Ecclesiastes 4 verse 12, though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken, is not easily broken. And again, you can replace baboon with monkey, ape, whatever other kind of name people target certain groups with, right? It's the same. Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves, and a cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. Alright family, like I said, this was kind of a unique and a different perspective that I got here in the land. If this gave you a new way to look at things, share it with somebody, because perspective has the power to change almost anything. It has the power to change your outlook on any situation. And as always, I hate to ask this, but yeah, I'm really trying to grow these channels. As you can see, I have divided the channels now. So we have Mosheyahu Music for those who are just into the music. We have Mosheyahu Reflections for those who like videos like this, where I share reflections and teachings from the land, you know, from just observing creation. And there's Mosheyahu, of course, Homesteading, where I share our journey here on our farm and our homesteading journey and our life here in Namibia in general. So if you like the content, remember to go ahead and like, share, subscribe, comment, and yeah, make sure you hit that notification bell so that when I upload, you get notified. All right, so until next time fam, much love and shalom.